Hello and welcome to this video in which we will dive into the world of PlayStation 3 controllers, exploring all there is to know about the different color variants that they were released in, and also unearthing the special limited edition versions that Sony released, which you might not have known about. Please do note, however, that for simplicity's sake, this video will only include the Sixaxis and Dualshock 3 series of gamepads, as all other official peripherals and accessories have only ever been released in black, and that would make for a pretty boring video. There are many sites that claim to have compiled such a list, however all of them seems to be either incomplete or contain wrong information in one aspect or another. Therefore, with this video, my aim is to create a comprehensive list complete with all color variations for prototype, Sixaxis and Dualshock 3 models, along with a short history and initial release dates within the three major markets of North America, Japan and Europe. We will first start with a brief mention of the non-prototypes, then transition over to the three original Sixaxis colors, before showcasing the wider range of standard and special edition of Dualshock 3 variants, all of which will be listed in a chronological order from the initial release date. So, without wasting any more of your time, let's dive into the video. It would feel wrong talking about the PS3 controller without first giving a brief mention of its origins. This Satin Silver prototype that was first revealed at E3 2005 was never officially given a name, but it was quickly christened as the Boomerang. Visually, it was a stark departure from the well-known DualShock shape that fans have been accustomed to since the PS1, and an IGN article from 2008 confirms that it was originally only a mock-up and was never a functional controller. Due to vocal reactions from the fans, after E3, Sony conducted a variety of focus groups that all led to one outcome. Fans longed for the familiarity of the DualShock design, and by E3 2006, the Boomerang was discarded in favor of the Sixaxis.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final PlayStation 3 controller.
The Sixaxis was a product of both fan outcry towards the Boomerang and Sony's legal battle with Immersion with regards to the use of the rumble functionality in their controllers. Before E3 2006, however, the company went through a number of functional prototype units that have slowly started resembling the familiar shape of their previous lineup, many of which had eventually ended up years later in the hands of collectors. Only a few prototypes ever found themselves into the wild, and are therefore considered quite rare. What appears to be one of the very first prototypes is the all-black colored Alpha Rev 3, featuring a large protrusion in between the shoulder triggers that has not one but two mini USB slots, and the familiar DualShock 2 motifs on the faceplate. It was likely the first attempt to bridge the connection between the PS2 and the PS3 controllers' technologies and design. The next three non-prototypes have already started resembling the launch Sixaxis, not only in shape but also in the clear black color that their plastic shells are made out of. There is one notable difference, however, with that being the glowing PlayStation Home button in the center. While it does look cool, I doubt Sony could implement the function of indicating which player is being controlled by just one LED, compared to the four LEDs that later models have. I've linked some great videos in the description by other people that explore these crazy lyrics of their time that I highly recommend checking out. Fast forward to November 11, 2006, the PS3 officially launches in the clear black color variant in Japan, followed by North America on November 17, 2006, and half a year later in Europe on March 23, 2007, all of them bundled in with a matching colored Sixaxis. Also sold as a standalone accessory, it continued to lack rumble functionality due to Sony's ongoing legal battle that was alluded to earlier. Compared to earlier prototypes, it sported a slightly translucent black shell throughout, and the glowing red LED under the home button has been removed in favor of four LEDs on top of the controller, which indicate the player number. Oftentimes you will hear people referring to not only the controller but the original console's color as piano black, but this is actually a common misconception. Piano black was mostly adopted by consumers and reviewers, while Sony has only ever used the term clear black to refer to the original console models, Sixaxis and early DualShock 3 controllers until the release of the Slim revision. Japanese gamers on November 11, 2007 also had the chance to get their hands on a very clean looking ceramic white PlayStation 3, which came with a matching ceramic white colored Sixaxis. Unlike the clear black version, however, this wasn't made out of a translucent plastic and also was never sold separately as a standalone accessory, being obtainable only as part of this bundle. As a result, it is very rare to find these white-colored variants in the wild, and getting your hands on one will require tracking one down and importing it from Japan. Another Japanese exclusive variant is the Satin Silver Sixaxis, which came as part of a larger Satin Silver console bundle that was released on March 8, 2008. Like with the previous ceramic white variant, this too has an opaque plastic body and was never sold as a standalone accessory, with the only way to obtain it being by purchasing the console bundle when it initially released. This makes it quite rare and very hard to track down by collectors. The switch from the Sixaxis to the Dualshock 3 finally came in 2007, with most of the Sixaxis stock being withdrawn throughout the year 2008, as Sony's settlement with Immersion finally meant that the Rumble was here to stay. The rollout started in Japan, where the clear black Dualshock 3 was officially launched on the 11th of November 2007 as a standalone accessory, while the US and EU only followed suit on April 15th and July 2nd of 2008 respectively. The first console bundles finally offering the updated controller were also released during this year as part of the wider rollout of the 80GB console. The first difference you can immediately see is the change from a more translucent outer shell to a fully opaque, glossy black color. It was never officially confirmed by Sony as to why it was changed, though we could probably speculate that it was likely due to cost-cutting reasons. These were the most sold color variants, and as such are probably people's first controller that they get and remember, and because of this, it is also the most fake controller out of the list. I'm looking at you, Dualshock 3. Following the much-needed rebranding and the introduction of the PS3 Slim revision on the 18th of August 2009, the official black color name that was used by Sony was changed to Charcoal Black, with the first available products bearing the name releasing later on in the year on September 1st. Another notable difference is that during this rebranding, the packaging for the standalone Dualshock 3 has clearly indicated the official color name, compared to the previous branding where it was nowhere to be found. You might be asking if there is a difference in the shade between the clear black and a charcoal black era controller, and the answer is no. This was purely a branding change by Sony. A common misconception is the color jet black being offered with the release of the Super Slim revision, but this too, like with the earlier piano black example, was made up by certain retailers and consumers, as Sony only ever officially referred to the PS4 that came out a year later as jet black. The ceramic white Dualshock 3 is virtually indistinguishable from the Sixaxis variant discussed earlier, with the only exception being the inclusion of Rumble and the Dualshock 3 branding on top of the controller. This clean-looking controller originally released in Japan on the 11th of November 2007 as a standalone accessory, with the US following suit more than 3 years later on the 25th of February 2010, while the variant skipped to Europe entirely until much later on. It was only on July 29th of 2010 that the first matching colored console that was bundled together with this controller was released for the first time in Japan, with the color finally debuting in Europe as part of the same bundle releasing a year later. Also noteworthy is that when the Slim revision came to market, the official name for Sony's wide-colored lineup of consoles and accessories changed to a more reserved classic white. Like with the earlier black gamepad, the change was purely from a branding perspective, and there was no difference between the two official colors. Nowadays, you are certain to find them online for the same price as most of the other variants. However, finding one in a good condition may take slightly longer as they tend to suffer a lot from yellowing of the plastic. Satin Silver, the last of the original 3 available colors, also had a Dualshock 3 upgrade release on the same date as the Satin Silver Sixaxis, starting with a standalone release in Japan on the 6th of March 2008 and followed by standalone releases in both the North American and PAL territory shortly after the introduction of the Dualshock 3 in their respective markets. It was never released anywhere as part of a bundle outside of Japan, where fans on the 10th of March 2011 could get their hands on a Satin Silver Slim Revision console bundle that was paired with a matching colored Dualshock. Visually, the gamepad, much like the other 2 original colors, are indistinguishable from their Sixaxis variants, and with the widespread release so early on in the lifecycle of the PS3, it can be found very easily in online marketplaces. Also released in 2008 is the company's first themed limited edition controller, which was paired together with a matching colored PS3 console. On the 12th of June 2008, fans in the US and Japan exclusively were treated to this stunning Gunmetal Grey colored console and controller, celebrating the worldwide launch of Metal Gear Solid 4. This specific color was a bundle exclusive and was never sold separately, so the only way to have gotten your hand on it was being one of the lucky ones that was able to grab it from the bundle. Nowadays, they will pop up now and again on sites like eBay or Japanese auctions for any eager PlayStation fans that want to add this very stylish looking controller to their collection. Metallic blue and deep red were the first non-monochromatic colors in offer by Sony, and they added a much needed splash of color into their lineup, initially releasing as standalone accessories in Japan on October 29th of 2009, before being released in North America a few years later on October 16th of 2012, as part of these awesome game and combo packs. Unfortunately, for Europeans they had to end up importing these color variants as they never officially launched in the region. There are 4 red variants that were sold by Sony throughout the lifetime of the PS3, with deep red being more of a traditional red that still retains its striking appearance. It is darker, richer, with a more standard and non-glossy sheen. Blue, on the other hand, had a total of 7 different color variations, so we can think of metallic blue as the standard baseline that we can draw comparisons from. It is a rich, medium blue tone with a prominent metallic-like sheen, giving it a very distinctive look. The beginning of the new decade brought with it another excellent addition to Sony's controller lineup, and on May 27, 2010, a limited edition Final Fantasy XIII controller was released, exclusive to Taiwan and Hong Kong. The reason for this was the debut of the Chinese language version of the game in those regions. The bundle came with a white-colored Dualshock 3, featuring the game's main protagonist Claire Faroon in pink on the right-hand side, and if this wasn't already a good deal, you can also get a copy of the game included with it. This is considered to be one of the rarer controllers to get hold of, requiring a whole lot of luck and persistence, because as soon as one pops up, it disappears into the hand of a collector. There is a Final Fantasy XIII themed console that was released in Japan on the game's Japanese release date, but rather disappointingly it came only with a standard ceramic white DualShock 3 instead. Towards the latter end of 2010, Sony began experimenting more and more with different themes and colors, in preparation for the crazy year that 2011 would end up becoming. The release of the Candy Pink controller in North America on the 21st September, followed by its debut in the other markets, was not entirely unexpected. Sony had already tested the waters with a similar color on the PS2, and this new Candy Pink color seems to be somewhere in between the standard pink and Sakura Pink colors offered on the previous generation. It features a similar, slightly reflective matte effect that the other colored controllers are known for, making it look almost like cotton candy. Sadly, there has never been a matching colored console released for it, unlike for the PS2, and was only ever sold as a standalone accessory. The last color variant released in 2010 was a Japanese exclusive titanium blue on the 2nd of November, which was only available as part of a bundle from the limited edition Gran Turismo 5 Racing Pack. Compared to the earlier metallic blue, it is a darker, more muted blue that has slightly desaturated matte finish. It certainly doesn't have as noticeable of a shimmer, but it does look just as pretty as the metallic blue, especially when paired with the console it came with. Finding them, however, will be quite a challenge, as it will require tracking down and importing from Japan. 2011 saw the release of a large number of color variations, starting with the worldwide release of the Jungle Green controller in February of 2011. It is the first two-tone DualShock 3 controller that Sony released, initially as part of the Killzone 3's launch via a combo pack. However, it was later released as a separate standalone accessory, minus the game of course. Contrary to its name, it features an olive green colored face section, while the back section is sporting a very deep, almost black looking dark green. A few weeks later, baseball fans in the US were treated to a special MLB 11 The Show themed gamepad on the game's release day, which to this day is the only PS3 controller variant that was released exclusively in North America and nowhere else. Visually, it is a ceramic white controller featuring red baseball stitching pattern printed over the face. Just be sure not to confuse it with an actual baseball and throw it by accident. And a month later, on April 11th, Sony Japan releases yet another blue-colored gamepad, this time in candy blue. It features a bright, vibrant and solid light blue color with a sort of candy-like finish, much like the previous Candy Pink controller. It is certainly the lightest of all the blue controllers, which makes it quite easy to identify when looking for it online. It was only ever available as a standalone accessory in Japan, so even with the added advantage of being easier to identify, it will still take a bit of time to track down should you wish. The first two transparent color variants for this generation finally came about on the 8th of June 2011, at the release of the PS3 exclusive Infamous 2. Players in the EU could get their hands on a cosmic blue and crimson red colored DualShock 3 as part of the Infamous 2 Good and Bad Edition combo pack. Both colors were also released in North America on the 30th of October 2012, with crimson red being a Target exclusive and cosmic blue being a Walmart exclusive, which is very fitting looking at the color branding for both of these stores. Transparent controllers were at the time a staple in Sony's lineup, though I don't remember fans having to wait this long after a console was released to be able to purchase them. The latter half of the year 2011 gets significantly more exciting, with Sony releasing a limited edition Uncharted 3 controller as a Japanese exclusive. This was released on November 2nd, which coincided with the game's Japanese launch date. The beige and brown two-tone controller features a face section design that resembles an old parchment map or desert, with Nathan Drake's famous ring visible on the right handle. The only problem with this controller, however, is that Sony has never made a matching console, because something as cool as this deserves to be complete. Japan saw another pair of red and blue colored controllers release on November 17th, this time with matching consoles along with them. And I know what you're thinking, when will Sony stop releasing another blue colored Dualshock 3? And to be frank, we are only just at the halfway point on the list, so the answer is not for another few years. Splash Blue was a Japanese exclusive color that, according to Sony, resembles a splashing water or the ocean, and to be honest, they were not wrong. It is a bright, saturated color with a glossy finish that would certainly make you thirsty just by looking at it. Scarlet Red, which was released in Japan on the same day as Splash Blue, did get a PAL release a year later on May 4, 2012, with Sony describing it as a vibrant, metallic red color that resembles the glaring sun or a flame. It is a brighter, more vivid red that has a vibrant, high-shine metallic finish, compared to the deep red-colored controller that was released 4 years earlier. November 17th also brought with it the urban camouflage pattern Dualshock 3, which was initially released in Japan to coincide with the launch of the Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker HD remaster and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Certainly aimed at fans of shooter games, it was made to look like the digital urban camouflage that certain branches of the US Armed Forces wear. And on the same day, a limited edition Ni no Kuni PS3 bundle was also available for Japanese fans to purchase, which came with a matching colored controller. Sony referred to this as Magical Gold, which had a shiny, pearlescent finish, designed to have the same whimsical aesthetics as Studio Ghibli's art style. PlayStation 3 had 3 separate official gold-colored controllers released for the console, which is a first for Sony. Japanese fans had this awesome One Piece Pirate Warriors-themed gold console bundle on offer on the 1st of March 2012, featuring a matching gold-colored Dualshock 3, while European and US fans had a slightly different-looking metallic gold-colored gamepad release in June of 2012, only as a standalone accessory. There is a clear distinction between the One Piece Gold controller and the metallic gold controller, because the metallic gold has a bright, vibrant and reflective gold finish, while the One Piece Gold edition has a more muted, duller matte gold finish, which may look slightly orange in certain conditions. The Slate Grey controller was the third transparent variant released for the console, starting in Asia on October 1st, 2012, before a worldwide release on the 10th of November 2012. Much like the other transparent controllers, it allows the internal components to be partially visible and has a slightly smoky ghost grey color. It is arguably the most common of the transparent variants due to its worldwide release, with many listings available on eBay and other e-commerce sites. As usual with Sony's limited edition controllers, Japanese fans of the Tales series were treated to this beautiful looking Tales of Xilia 2 limited edition controller bundle on the game's Japanese launch date of November 1st, 2012. It is a black-colored gamepad with red and gold-colored accents based on the game's motifs painted on the face section, not too dissimilar to the Tales of Xilia 1 PS3 console, which was also a Japanese exclusive limited edition release. The last golden-colored PS3 controller came in a two-tone variant on December 5th, 2012, as part of a Japanese exclusive Yakuza 5 Emblem Edition bundle, featuring a matching themed PS3 Slim. The Yakuza 5 Gold controller has the same faceplate as the previously mentioned metallic gold, with the only exception being the back section being colored in charcoal black. Additionally, it also featured a Yakuza-themed gold sticker that can be stuck onto the gamepad, which makes it look like the tattoos that a Yakuza member would have tattooed on them. And if that wasn't enough for Japanese fans, they also got a very cool-looking Fist of the North Star-themed console and controller bundle just a few weeks later on the 20th December 2012. It featured a charcoal black-colored Dualshock 3, adorned throughout with white-colored bullet holes. " 2013 came around, and that only meant one thing to Sony, and that is to release another pair of red and blue controllers with matching consoles along with them. Both of these colors were only available as part of these PS3 bundles, and a standalone version was never officially released by Sony. And as a result, Azure Blue and Garnet Red were officially on the market on the 20th of February 2013, originally only in Europe, before Japan following suit on the 28th of February, and the US a little bit later on in the year. Azurite Blue is a deep, slightly darker blue color that is neither metallic nor shiny. And in the same vein, Garnet Red is also a more classy, muted deep red, not as bright or vibrant as Scarlet Red, and a slightly darker and more elegant shade compared to the bolder deep red. It is also lacking the metallic sheen that the other two reds have. If you thought that one transparent blue controller was enough, Sony clearly didn't agree with your outlook, because only a day later, a Japanese exclusive Metal Gear Rising Revengeance PS3 bundle was released. It featured a two-tone black and blue PS3 Super Slim console and a translucent blue-colored DualShock 3. Compared to the Cosmic Blue color variant, the Metal Gear Rising controller has a more darker, less see-through blue color, which has the added effect of making it look even more classier. Overall, it is the 7th and the last blue color variant released for the console, and looking at all 7 of them, we can definitely see the slight changes that Sony put into each one of them. Possibly one of the more bolder designs, the God of War Ascension controller was released both as a bundle and as a standalone controller in March 2013 to coincide with the release of the game. In the UK, you could also get it as part of a bundle with a classic white-colored Super Slim, which keeps with the theme of the game. The controller has a tan-colored background, with Kratos' face on one side of the controller and the God of War logo on the other side. Metallic Grey as a color was launched as standalone only on the 20th of June 2013 in Japan, with releases in the other regions also happening around the same time frame. Originally released to coincide with Last of Us' Japanese release date, it has a flatter, more matte finish compared to the more common Satin Silver, which has a shinier, more metallic-like finish. The last transparent DualShock 3 that was released for the console was arguably the best and sadly was only ever a Japanese exclusive. Officially called the Crystal Controller, it saw the light of day on December 19, 2013. It was a fan favorite lineup at the time, with the PS1, PS2 and now even the PS3 receiving a fully transparent Crystal Controller. It has a completely clear, colorless shell, showcasing all the internal components of the gamepad. Due to its highly sought after nature, it is quite rare to find even on Japan's online marketplaces. And at last we have come to the end of the list, with the Final Fantasy Lightning Returns controller being the last ever color variant released for the console. Available exclusively from GameStop in the US, it is a charcoal black colored gamepad with motifs from the game running throughout the face section. Japan unfortunately only ever got this weird looking third-party version. However, other markets in Asia were lucky enough in having these released in their territories. Just by browsing eBay, you can find Korean and Hong Kong models out in the wild. So there we have it, the full list of 32 available PS3 color variations and special edition controllers that you can see on the screen. The PS3 really did build on the PS1 and PS2's legacy and ultimately paved the way for the sheer amount of color variants its successors, the PS4 and 5, would end up having. You may be asking what's next, and to be honest, I do believe that some of these inaccurate lists, especially on the PS Dev Wiki, are in need of a refresh. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I have enjoyed researching and making it, and I will include a list of sources that I've used in the description below, along with a full text-based list and links to videos as a definitive guide for collectors looking to complete the full set. Good hunting!